Formula One.
Yeah.
Oscar Piastri leads by 22 points to his teammate Lando Norris. This weekend, they're going to Austin, COTA, Circuit of the Americas. Is one of my favorite tracks. Sorry, I'm wiping my face because I have cat hair all over me from two cats.
You're nervous to be on, man. It's fine. It's fine.
That's true. It's my first time ever being live. Nice to be here. First time podcaster, long time podcaster. And Formula One, I think the British audiences have sort of been a little bit like, there's no one's interested in the sport or in the championship fight this year. But we've been talking, at least not on the rally podcast that I do, but certainly with Rob offline about just how exciting it is from an Australian point of view to see potentially Oscar Piastri take a championship for the first time since 1980. It's such a long time.
Yeah.
Alan
Jones, if you can believe it, is still the guy.
Yeah. Still the guy.
Yep.
We've been robbed with Mark Webber in 2010 and then consistently robbed also of my heart and my feelings with Daniel Ricciardo over the last couple of years. But it's going to be an interesting one this weekend in COTA because there's been a whole bunch of fallout from Singapore for Oscar and the first lap incident between him and Lando Norris, but also the race before in Azerbaijan of him scoring no points whatsoever. So he's got a 22-point lead now. If you win a Formula One race, you get 25 points. So it was a bigger gap before going into Singapore.
Yep.
So it's now Oscar's to sort of crawl back a little bit again. I'm really interested in his headspace going into the weekend because I think we talk about every sport where your head's at, and certainly for Formula One and leading a championship when you've got your teammate right behind you and the outside possibility of Max Verstappen having a really fast race car for the final 6 rounds of the season to try and to catch you up, whilst McLaren have stopped focusing on developing this year's car and have looked to next year's car to do it. I'm just interested in your thoughts as a fellow Australian sports fan, what you think of Oscar and also his, I guess, the excitement from the Australian point of view for his championship hopes.
Yeah, very exciting. It's been a great season of F1, especially for Australians. But I think the psychological buffer of having less than a points worth of races, less than a race worth of points, less than 25, it's 22 now. A DNF and a win for Norris gives him the championship lead. So that's an issue. But I think Piastri's good under pressure. I think if there's anything we can say for his first few years in the sport, it's that he is pretty ice cold. And maybe as a result, he's not the most enticing media personality, but on track, he seems to deliver. It is a weird situation with McLaren at the moment with what seems to be infighting. You never know how much to believe, but there's a little bit on track, a little bit off track. They just won their Constructors' Championship back-to-back for the first time since 1991, so that's a great tick. But now they've got this weird sort of internal squabble, and we've seen it in the past with great teams. We've seen it with Häkkinen and Coulthard and those guys all the way back in the 90s and early thousands. What do you do? What do you do as the team now? And what happens if that gap goes to 15 points rather than 22 points? So fingers crossed for a good result. The one part that you mentioned that's also intriguing is Max Verstappen, because since Christian Horner was given the flick after a very successful but ailing tenure as the team principal, the head of Red Bull, they have become a force again, or at least a very competitive team. Not team, one driver. Tsunoda's not doing anything, but Verstappen, he's won 2 of the last 3 races, has been on the podium all over the place. So 62 points is the gap. That's 2.5 wins with 6 races to go. I wouldn't say he's in it, but he's not out of it. He's not out of it. And I think the greatest result for the sport this week would be a double McLaren DNF and a Verstappen win. I'm not saying that as an Australian. I don't want that.
Ooh.
But imagine a win from Max that closes it to 40 or less points with 5 to go. Then we are on.